Alright, so now we're going to be looking at the other types of movements under the convergent plate margin. And the next one we have is when we have a continental and continental crust colliding. When two continental plates collide, they are pushed upwards, forming fold mountains. In this case, there is no subduction, and this is because both of these plates are of the same density. Because of course we have a continental and a continental crust or plate colliding, so they're of the same. An example of this is the Eurasian plate colliding with the Indo-Australian plate to create the Himalayas mountain range. And this includes Mount Everest. So at convergent plate margins, we can get activities like earthquakes due to the collision of the plates. You have a sudden shaking on the surface of the earth. We can also get volcanoes being formed, as well as fold mountains and ocean trenches. So here we see a demonstration. We see that one of the continental plates is moving towards the other, and here we see that the plates are pushing upwards. Again, we see another demonstration. The two plates collide and they are forced upwards until they create fold mountains. The final type of movement under the convergent plate margin is when we have an oceanic and an oceanic plate colliding. Now, once we have two oceanic plates or crust colliding, the older one is going to be forced down into the mantle while the younger one stays on top. And this can usually form an ocean trench. So as the older plate is pushed down into the mantle, of course, it's going to start to melt, allowing molten material now to rise through the younger crust, forming underwater volcanoes. These volcanoes may eventually grow tall enough to rise above the surface, and they're no longer called underwater volcanoes, but they're now called volcanic islands. And we have a chain of islands that can be formed, and a perfect example of this is the Lesser Antilles, which is found in the Caribbean. So let's look at this demonstration here. So we have the oceanic crust and another oceanic crust. So they are colliding. So the older one is forced down into the mantle and it starts to melt, while the younger one stays above it. Alright? And then eventually you have the older crust melting, and then magma makes its way through the younger one, and this will create a series of volcanoes on, well, below the surface of the water until they start to grow and become volcanic islands. And here we have the examples in the Lesser Antilles. So all the islands there in the Lesser Antilles, they have been formed at a convergent plate margin when we have an oceanic and oceanic plate colliding.